What if I told you that the next world war would not begin with soldiers marching, but with silence on your phone and empty shelves in your city? Imagine waking up one morning and the internet is gone, banks are frozen, and no one knows what is happening outside their own street. It sounds like a movie, but wait till you hear this part, because the first signs of World War III may already feel completely normal. And what happens next will not just change countries, it will change the way humans survive on this planet forever. It all begins quietly, as tensions rise between powerful nations over territory, resources, and control of technology that shapes the future. Countries like the United States, China, Russia, and other rising powers start forming alliances, drawing invisible lines across the world map. At first, it looks like economic pressure, trade wars, and cyber attacks that disrupt systems without a single bullet being fired. But beneath all of this, something much bigger is building, something that cannot be stopped once it truly begins. In today's world, power is no longer just about armies. It is about data, energy, and control over global supply chains. Some nations control oil and gas, others dominate rare earth minerals, while a few lead in artificial intelligence and advanced weapons. This uneven distribution creates tension, because every country wants security, influence, and survival in an uncertain future. And when too many powerful nations want control at the same time, conflict slowly becomes almost inevitable. The first real strike would not be nuclear, it would be digital, shutting down power grids, hospitals, and communication networks in seconds. Entire cities would go dark, flights would be canceled, and millions of people would suddenly be cut off from the modern world they depend on. But wait till you hear this part, because panic spreads faster than any weapon ever created in human history. People rush to stores, withdraw cash, and governments struggle to maintain order as fear begins to take control. Within just a few days, global markets crash, currencies lose value, and inflation rises so fast that basic goods become unaffordable overnight. A simple loaf of bread could cost 10 times more than it did just a week ago, and fuel becomes something only a few can access. Poverty spreads rapidly, even in developed nations, as jobs disappear and entire industries shut down without warning. And this is where the real crisis begins, because survival is no longer guaranteed for millions of people. Food supply chains begin to collapse as transportation systems fail, and international trade comes to a complete stop across continents. Farmers cannot deliver crops, imports are blocked, and supermarkets slowly become empty spaces filled with desperation and fear. Families begin rationing meals, and in some places, people fight over basic necessities just to survive another day. What started as a geopolitical conflict now turns into a humanitarian disaster, affecting nearly every corner of the world. Ports become silent, cargo ships remain stranded, and trucks stop moving across highways that once connected entire economies together. Airspace restrictions tighten, and even humanitarian aid struggles to reach places where people are starving and desperate for help. Local markets try to adapt, but without global trade, supplies remain limited and prices continue rising beyond control. And slowly, people begin to understand that this crisis is not temporary, it is reshaping the world permanently. As governments struggle to respond, power distribution shifts dramatically, and smaller nations are forced to choose sides or risk isolation. Some countries gain influence by controlling resources, while others collapse under pressure, unable to protect their citizens. Refugees begin crossing borders in massive numbers, creating tension and conflict even in regions that were once stable. And the world becomes divided not just by politics, but by survival itself. Then comes the moment everyone fears, the possibility of nuclear weapons entering the battlefield and changing everything forever. One launch could trigger retaliation, and within minutes, multiple cities across different countries could be reduced to ashes. The blast itself is devastating, with heat and shock waves destroying everything in seconds across miles of land. But wait till you hear this part, because the real danger is not just the explosion, it is what comes after it. The sky glows unnaturally bright, followed by darkness that feels heavier than anything humanity has ever experienced before. Buildings collapse, infrastructure disappears, and entire populations are left with nothing but ruins around them. Survivors struggle to find clean water, shelter, and basic medical care in a world that no longer functions normally. And every passing moment feels like a reminder of how fragile modern civilization truly was. Radiation spreads silently, contaminating air, water, and soil, making entire regions unsafe for human life for years to come. Hospitals are overwhelmed, medical supplies run out, and people suffer from effects that cannot be treated easily or quickly. Communication systems are still broken, and help cannot reach those who need it most in time. And slowly, the world begins to realize that this war has no real winners. A nuclear exchange could lead to what scientists call nuclear winter, where smoke and dust block sunlight and lower global temperatures drastically. Crops fail worldwide, ecosystems collapse, and food shortages become even more severe than anything humanity has ever faced. Entire regions could become uninhabitable, forcing millions to migrate in search of safer places to live. And suddenly, the war is no longer about countries, it becomes a fight for human survival itself. But here is something even more chilling, because not all destruction comes from bombs. Some of it comes from within societies themselves. As resources become scarce, trust breaks down, and communities that once lived peacefully begin to turn against each other. Law and order weakens, and people are forced to make impossible choices just to protect their families. What happened next will surprise you, because humanity's greatest strength can also become its greatest weakness. In some places, cooperation emerges, with people sharing resources, helping each other, and rebuilding small communities from nothing. Neighbors grow food together, protect each other, and create systems that bring a sense of hope back into their lives. These small pockets of unity show that even in chaos, humanity can still find ways to survive and adapt, and these stories become powerful reminders that not everything is lost. In other places, however, chaos takes over, and survival becomes a brutal struggle where only the strongest or smartest manage to endure. Groups fight over territory, resources are hoarded, and fear drives people to actions they never imagined they were capable of. The line between right and wrong begins to blur as survival instincts take control over morality. And this darker side of humanity begins to shape entire regions of the world. Meanwhile, powerful nations continue to fight for control, even as the world around them collapses under the weight of destruction. New alliances form, old ones break, and the balance of power shifts in ways no one could have predicted before the war began. Technology that once connected the world is now used to dominate and control what remains of it. And the question becomes whether this conflict will ever truly end. Hidden facilities, underground bunkers, and secret operations become the centers of decision-making for those still in power. Leaders operate in isolation, disconnected from the reality faced by ordinary people struggling on the surface. Decisions made in these places determine the fate of millions without their voices ever being heard, and the gap between power and humanity grows wider than ever before. But here is the part that might surprise you, because despite all this, such a future is not guaranteed or unavoidable. History has shown us moments where humanity stood on the edge of destruction and chose a different path at the last second. Diplomacy, cooperation, and awareness still have the power to prevent escalation if nations choose dialogue over destruction. The real battle may not be fought with weapons, but with decisions made before it is too late. So when you hear about rising tensions, global conflicts, or economic struggles, remember that these are not just distant events. They are early warning signs of a future that could unfold if the world continues down a dangerous path. Understanding these risks is the first step toward preventing them, because awareness creates responsibility, and responsibility, when shared, can change the course of history itself. Now think about your own life, your family, your city, and how quickly everything you know could change in such a scenario. Would you be prepared, or would you be caught off guard in a world that suddenly feels unfamiliar and unstable? These are not easy questions, but they are important ones, because the future is shaped by how we think today. And sometimes, imagining the worst can help us build a better reality. If this perspective made you think, opened your eyes, or gave you a new understanding of the world around you, then you are already ahead. Because awareness is the first step toward change, and change begins with conversations like this one. Make sure to like this video, subscribe for more powerful and thought-provoking stories, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe humanity can prevent World War III, or are we already closer than we think?